Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to be here. Tom is a hardworking guy. He's doing a lot of good work for the City of Costa Mesa on our Pension Oversight Committee, as well as our Finance Advisory Committee, and having to review a lot of different reports and understand and learn a lot about our city finances and help guide and provide recommendations to our city council, so I really appreciate him. Also, Barry Friedland in the back is doing some filming. Barry invited me to come tonight with his daughter, came into City Hall and tracked me down and got me to say yes to come tonight, and thank you, Barry, for all you do. He does some great work in videotaping and providing information out in the community, and so really thank him for all he does. And I just heard about Jeff, and really sorry to hear about Jeff Arthur, and he's also an incredibly knowledgeable and hardworking community member that serves on our Pension Oversight Committee and our Finance Advisory Committee, and obviously we wish him the best as well. Again, my name is Tom Hatch. I'm the city CEO. Most cities, my position is called city manager, but in Costa Mesa, it's a city CEO. And I've been in local government about 28 years. Started my career in the city of Walnut, a small city, contract city near Pomona and Diamond Bar in that area. Worked there about 3 years. I worked for the city of Brea in North Orange County about 6.5 years. In finance and budgeting, spent a lot of my time in finance and budgeting, about a third of my career, and a lot of that was in the city of Brea. Also spent some time in South Pasadena, great little town near LA, not Pasadena, but South Pasadena, the smaller town, really a great town. Was there in parks and recreation and transportation services, senior services, and capital projects, those kinds of things. Spent some time in my hometown, which is West Covina. Was there about 3.5 years, and did a variety of different projects, capital projects, and again, parks and recreation activities, a lot of different services for the community and outreach to the community through commissions and things like that. Then I spent about 3.5 years with the city of El Monte as a deputy city manager. And then most recently, I'm in Costa Mesa, been in Costa Mesa almost 10 years, and been the city CEO about 5 years. And so it's been a real honor and pleasure. It's a terrific position. It's a difficult position. But I love what I do. I work hard at it. But it is challenging because I have some power, I have some authority, and I think I'll explain about how I approach some things that I think you'll appreciate. And I think I bring some things to the table that really help our community and communities. But day to day, it's working with 5 city council members. In Costa Mesa, we have 5 council members, and they're elected, and they each have a different idea of exactly what we should be doing. It takes 3 votes to really formally make a decision about how we move forward. But and some things do require formal votes, but other issues, if I hear something tonight that the group wants to pursue something or has a good idea, we don't take everything to the council for a vote. Sometimes I just say, wow, great idea, and we start working on it. And that's good responsive government, and we do that a lot. And sometimes individual council members have ideas, and that we work on those and try to make those happen, because I do have a strong sense, and maybe an overly developed sense, and respect for democracy and representative government, and I think this group does as well. And so this community elects those 5 members, and 3 members need to vote on something, and if they want to do something, that's what we're doing, and we move forward with those things and implement those. We don't play any games. We don't slow things down because I disagree with them. We don't change things because the way I want them. I have my role, and they have their role, and if they have a policy direction, I'm going to implement that. I get some authority and some discretion to implement that based on that direction, and I do that very very conscientiously, and help to move things forward. I pride myself on being a simple problem solver, and so I think government at times is complex. Sometimes things don't need to be as complex as we have them. And I'll get into a variety of different budget philosophies that I think will be interesting. I focus on being a professional, and so my role is to professionally manage the organization. We have 478 authorized full-time positions, full-time positions. We have numerous part-time positions. We have consultants that help us. We have $113 million operating budget. That's a big company. We have another $28 million capital project budget, so that together is a big budget, and there's a lot of day-to-day things that happen. There's a police department, a fire department. There's a lot of different services that people rely on. Those need to be operated efficiently and effectively. Otherwise, we're not going to be well respected as a staff organization. And to be responsive and responsible for the things we do is very important to me. And I think we overall do a very good job with those things. A little bit about my budget philosophy. And so, again, I've been with the City of Costa Mesa about 10 years. But as you know, we went through the world's worst recession, and that hit everyone pretty hard. In Costa Mesa, we are blessed that we have 46% of our revenues come from sales tax. That's very unusual for cities. Most cities have, some sales tax, some property tax, some transient occupancy tax, some business tax, a lot of different things that make up their revenue base. In Costa Mesa, we have 46% sales tax and a lot of other items. I wouldn't give that away. I love the fact that South Coast Plaza is in our town. It's a very unusual site. It is the #1 revenue generating mall or plaza in the world. #1. I've tried on $850,000 watches at South Coast Plaza through a tour. I didn't go looking, I wasn't shopping, but I was able to try on an $850,000 watch. They have some stores you walk in, it's hard to pronounce what it is, and they might have like 6 things for sale. Boy, that's an interesting sign that those things might be pretty expensive, and there's a lot of very expensive things in that plaza. They generate sales of $1.7 billion annually just out of that location. The city of Costa Mesa gets a mere penny, but when you have $1.7 billion in annual sales, that equates to $17 million that comes to Costa Mesa, or, if you round our budget down to about $100 million, it's about 17, to 15% of our budget comes from one location that has a lot of stores, and so we're very fortunate to have that in our town. In addition, the city of Costa Mesa has 164 places that sell cars. The next highest number of places to sell cars in Orange County is Santa Ana at 93. So we have 71 more places that sell cars than the next highest location in Orange County. Some of those are very small, I admit, on our west side, and they're little boutique, but they're high-end cars. There's a lot of different things different places sell cars. That's a blessing. It's a blessing in good times. In bad times, people stop buying cars. Car dealers have to fold or consolidate or do different things, and that's when you're so reliant on that, that's not a good thing. And so in Costa Mesa, when you're that reliant on those things, and we had the world's worst recession, those two things colliding together are very difficult. And so in Costa Mesa, we were very fortunate for decades, and we relied, every year we turn around and, there's another $1 million increase in our sales tax, and we allowed ourselves to continue growing as an organization, adding reoccurring costs, staff costs, and the challenge is that you guys are demanding. People out in the community, you want services, you have expectations, and people expect things. And when there's funding available, sometimes you allow yourself to grow like that. And so the city of Costa Mesa grew to 611 full-time employees. And that was a lot. And so we can't afford 611 full-time reoccurring employees and those costs. And what was happening each year, we were budgeting for all those costs, salaries and pensions and sick leave and all those other things that cost money. And at the end of the day, we didn't have a lot of money left over for the other things we need, streets and alleys and sidewalks and park improvements and playground equipment for our kids and paying down debt and all the other things we need to do. And that is just, so the sales tax we have is a real blessing, but you can get reliant on that and think it's always going to continue. And obviously that recession hit everyone incredibly hard, and it woke us up. Now I get the benefit of starting right in the heart of all the very difficult times, and we went through some very difficult times in terms of restructuring the organization, changing our organization to be more lean and mean and efficient. And so right now we have 408 positions that are filled full-time. We have, again, we're going to grow a little more to 478 full-time positions, but that's a lot fewer than 611 full-time positions. Now, we've outsourced a little bit, and we're getting things done a few different ways, but I think we're getting a lot more done with fewer people and fewer recurring costs. And in the good times, here's what we've done just to be a little smarter. In good times, realize those are blessings and not something to just rely on and can count on. We're putting those aside. We built back our reserves. We have a very good reserve level already. And in addition, the council created an ordinance that structurally says we're going to put aside 6.5% of our budget every year to one-time things. To capital projects, to streets, to all those other things we talked about. So those are fully funded. So that's how we start our budget process. Well, you know, council's ordinance says we have to have 6.5% aside. Boom, that's budgeted and in the budget, and I can't cut that. I have to present the budget with that money in it. And so what that does is ensures that we're taking care of the capital infrastructure needs in a way that we would all expect, and those get done. When the next recession is coming, I don't know. Is that a few months away? I don't know. A little worried about what's happening out there right now. Is that 2 years away? Is it 5 years away? It's coming. We don't know exactly when that is. Our first approach would be the fact that with the employees that we have, again, we're a service organization. We have people that provide services to the community. We're providing the services I think we need, regardless if it's a good economy or if it's a bad economy. It's the services we need to provide to the community. What we're using the other monies for, the 6.5% and those other things, we're funding all those capital projects. If we have a recession, the challenge in government is when you provide services and people get used to that service, some people don't want to see that service go away. And so we've gone through some difficult times. We've changed our organization to be leaner and meaner and more efficient. So we're not looking to grow those services significantly. We're looking to grow our capital projects on a one-time cost. When the recession hits, and it will, we'll slow down on those capital projects. And I'll talk about in a minute, we have some very good work that we've done on streets and sidewalks and those kinds of things. And so the idea would be, and that equates to about this year, about $7.2 million we have set aside for capital projects. That's pretty healthy. I wish it was more, but it's pretty healthy. And so if the economy fell, the first thing we would do is slow down on those capital projects and keep our core services, because it's hard to cut those. We spend hours and hours evaluating those things to cut, and I think we went through and reduced a lot of the less essential things. You know, some people debate that. We're probably doing some things that you might not agree with as well, but in terms of our council and our community, these are the core things that we're providing as services. And so, in general, we're lean and mean. We're providing for our capital infrastructure. We're replacing things. We have money that we're setting aside for information technology. We just purchased some new computers that we needed to operate. Now we have an information technology fund that when we need to replace those, we're putting money aside to replace those automatically. And so we're doing a lot of things smarter to be ready to tackle our budget needs down the road. And so that's generally how that works. In terms of capital projects, something we're proud of are, I'm going to be a real bureaucrat for a minute, but I'm not a bureaucrat, but let me be that for a minute. Our pavement condition index, some years ago was pretty bad. If you drove around town, we had more potholes. We weren't applying enough resources to those. We had trip and falls on sidewalks and different things that were occurring because we didn't apply enough of those resources to it. Now our pavement condition index is at a number of 87. That doesn't mean a lot, but in terms of the Orange County Transportation Authority, they want to see cities at a 75 level. But the 87 level gets us in the top 5% of all cities in Orange County. So Costa Mesa streets are some of the best in Orange County. And we're proud of that. And we're taking care of, we have a fire station just down the road from here. Fire station number 1's 53 years old. It needs to be replaced. It served its time. It's been great for us for years. It needs to be replaced if it's going to operate another 50 years. And so we're now putting money aside to tackle that. We're also tackling a variety of other capital projects and things we have in the community that are important to residents, that provide them safe access to various things. We're improving alleyways. Some of the alleyways we have in our community were in bad shape, and they're in much better shape. And so we're proud of those things. Those are the key things I wanted to cover. I have a lot of other things I could talk about related to our successes over the last year that are really that we're really proud of. I could talk about our group homes that we have in town. In Costa Mesa, we have a lot of group homes that are a real challenge for this community. That are impacting our neighborhoods, and the city is spending additional resources to tackle some of those problems. And so I could talk about some of those things if people are interested in those. We have some particular capital projects like our library project and a park project that we're looking to make some improvements. And I was debating with Tom and a few others about, do we really need that project? Is it vital? And we have some creative ways to fund that. From my point of view, without impacting the reoccurring services that we're providing to the community. But I wanted to leave some time, and Tom suggested that give an overview of these things and allow people to ask some questions if they'd like, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Yeah.
I understand that we have a pension liability to the state, is that correct? When we have meetings like that, why does nobody talk about that?
I'd be happy to talk about that. It is a significant problem. It's approximately $214 million, a little short of $250 million problem in Costa Mesa alone. And so it's a significant problem. There's a variety of different factors that led to that issue. The solution is a long-term solution. And so, number one, employees should be paying more towards their pension, to their pension benefits. That's in the works. There's a variety of different ways that the City of Costa Mesa and our council has started a negotiation process with employees to pay more towards those. An example would be our Costa Mesa, our basic Costa Mesa City Employees Association group is we now have an agreement with them that because some of those pension costs are increasing, that the employees themselves are going to cover 60% of the increased costs that are occurring. Granted, you'd probably say that should be 100% of those increased costs, and I understand that. We're making steps towards that. I cover approximately 40% of my pension costs that go into PERS. I could be providing more, and we're going to be working on my evaluation soon with our city council, and I think they'll be anticipating that I continue to contribute more towards our pension liabilities. In addition, as part of our budget costs now, besides what PERS tells us to pay as the costs, we're looking to strategically tackle portions of that pension, so that $214 million isn't just one pot of money. There's several different segments to that. One of those key segments, we're aggressively trying to tackle that one portion of that. We're putting more money aside within our budget. Then we're doing a creative thing where two of the associations, their costs usually are paid every pay period, 26 times over the year towards PERS. Instead, we're paying all of those costs up front on July 1 for the entire year, which saves us approximately $300,000 in costs towards that pension that we're putting back into paying off our pensions a little early. But there's a lot more, but those are modest. I would say they're modest in terms of compared to that size of that problem. And it's such a big challenge that it's going to take decades to really start getting our way out of that problem.
Did you take a look at many of the other cities in major states that have the same problem for the same reasons? And the only thing I can think of is look at Detroit. You know what they did, the employees, they took a haircut, a big one. But that, because they were already in bankruptcy. Let's do something that keeps us out of bankruptcy.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you. So I think that it's a big problem, and so the answer is you need to aggressively start dividing up that problem and dividing and conquering that problem. Employees need to contribute more. The city needs to fund and pay as much as we can towards that problem. And then, you know, any other kinds of solutions that we hear from other cities and what they're doing. We're always looking to incorporate other improvements and watching other things that are happening on those issues. The challenge is the state and the PERS board controls how the structure of that organization is managed. What are the rules? What can be done? How can a city get out of it? How can the city pay ahead? You know, all the different things that once a city might be looking to do to improve their situation. We don't have full control over all those different things because we're in the situation and we're part of the operation. Sure.
You indicated that you're paying 40% of the pension costs.
Approximately, yes.
You indicated that any increases to the general employees, would you pay 60% or they would pay that 60% of that?
Correct.
Cost? But what about the police and the fire? They're not at those levels, are they?
Police and fire departments are not at those levels. I think the Firefighters Association is paying 5% of their pension, 5% of their pocket towards their pension.
And that's 53%?
Yeah, they're firefighters and police officers are in a safety system, and they're more lucrative benefits than in the past. And they were able to retire at a younger age with more lucrative pension, and so their costs are approximately, you know, I don't have the number right in front of me, but I want to say about 53 to 55% of their salary. So if there's a firefighter or a police officer that makes $100,000, the city of Costa Mesa, the pension cost for that $100,000 employee is $53,000 a year just towards that pension, and they're paying 5% of the 50%.
And you're paying 40%. So
I'm paying a little under 40%.
why is there a difference? I mean,
Well, again, and I did that and agreed to that, I want to say approximately, I don't know. Me personally, yeah.
What about the public, the general employees?
General employees, I want to say are about 12%.
17,
Yeah, I think it's a little more.
14 or 17?
Yeah, I think it's 14, it's either 14 or 17, we're paying more.
Okay.
Plus the 60% of any increase.
Okay.
And theirs is only costing us like $30 or $35 of the 100,000.
Correct, yeah, that's, so there's,
Almost half their cost, or
correct.
30 or 40%.
That's the difference that are, you know, and this was calculated about 3 years ago, and so my costs were, I want to say about 27%, and so I was paying about 10.5%, 10.5% at that time, you know, of that amount, it came to that equation. And so firefighters and sworn personnel receive more lucrative benefits, and we're paying smaller portions towards that at this time. But there is discussions about those associations increasing their contributions in the future. Yes.
Mission Viejo, our city, we contract out to the Orange County Sheriff and to the Orange County Fire Department. Do you guys ever think of doing that, or is it too late now that you already have your own?
Yeah. The city council did not look at that option. We looked at contracting out our fire service. So we have our own fire service in Costa Mesa with the Orange County Fire Authority, and looked at, there's pros and cons with that. There are some initial savings, but you lose local control. And so if there's if the Orange County Fire Authority granted a raise, then they would pass on that raise and say, city, you need to pay that cost. And so when we looked at those, issues. There was some initial savings, but more of a concern for escalating costs down the road from our point of view. We did not look at that for Orange County Sheriff's Department services, and so that did not get explored. It's harder when cities have a long history of having their own police departments. I think cities, residents feel more connected to those services. I have worked in some cities that had a sheriff's department, and they provide outstanding service as well. Yes?
Sometimes the supermarket will double the price and then have a half-off sale, so it's kind of a wash. What are you doing so that you aren't raising, we can tell the difference between raising the wage and then putting it into the pension?
What are we doing to, what are we doing to?
For someone who would want to argue that.
Let's see.
I would assume there's already a prearranged argument for that.
That we shouldn't be doing that. I want to get your question right. So are we doing that?
Yeah, well, if you give them a raise that is equivalent to what you're taking out of the pension, can you see what I'm trying to get at?
No, I do understand. I do understand that.
Yeah, I'm going to presume there's an argument against anyone asking that.
No,
What is the argument?
It's a perfect approach would be a better approach would be to have employees continue to pay more into their pension without any salary increases, because that would reduce your liability problem, obviously.
See, I'm trying to make it not an accusation.
I understand. I think some cities have done that. Hello?
Push up on the button.
You know what's up? I think the battery. I can talk. Some cities have done that. There has been, sometimes it's just a direct correlation of here's that raise and here's that, I understand. The city of Costa Mesa did grant some increases to our general employees, and there were negotiations that included reductions in vacation and sick leave, and this concept of paying on an ongoing basis 60% towards their retirements or things like that. There has been some discussions about with our police officers association contractors going to the city council. There's some connection between raises and additional payments towards pension, so that is an issue, and that has happened. I think the city councils are wrestling with trying to pay off those pensions and get employees to get accustomed to contributing more while still trying to retain and attract employees. But your point is well taken, that if you, when you do that, you're increasing your future costs. While they might be contributing more, your costs are increasing as well.
Less deductible, I would imagine.
Yeah.
In other words, I'm trying to make sure there's a way to discover any fresh wool over my eyes attempts.
Tom, you mentioned the other day, we'll make this the last question.
Sure.
That some good things are happening with the sober living homes. Why don't you bring us up to date with it? We have more sober living homes in Costa Mesa than the whole state of California. So it's a problem.
We have about 27% of the sober living facilities in Orange County reside in Costa Mesa. In terms of a ratio, we have about 3.6% of the population. From my point of view, it'd be nice if we had, 3.6% of the sober living facilities. And many sober living facilities are operating in our community, and they do an excellent job. They might be down the street from you. They might be quietly operating, might be good neighbors, they might be maintaining their things well, and you might even not know that they're there. And there are people who struggle with alcohol and drug dependency, and they need some help, and so those kinds of facilities are needed. When we have this many of them in Costa Mesa, it's a big impact, and there are challenges. We've while I say we're going to be very careful about adding reoccurring costs, and we're not going to grow back to 611 employees, and we're not, But the particular problems that we need to address, we've been smart enough to say, we've got to have resources to tackle those issues on a day in and day out basis. And so we've added staff to deal with some of those problems and to learn about those problems. The challenges that exist are great, and I had an article that I just passed out to our city council today that we just received, and it's pretty interesting. HealthNet, one of the largest providers of health insurance in the state, it launched a broad fraud investigation against California drug treatment providers. In short, the growth of treatment providers really comes from many of them taking advantage of the Affordable Care Act. And that Affordable Care Act provided the simple issue that if someone breaks their arm and they have a Affordable Care Act coverage, that obviously their arm would be taken care of, and they would get a cast, and they would get protection for that. But when that act was implemented, it also required that those that have dependency issues or other mental health issues also get coverage. And many of the drug treatment providers understood that and started playing games with taking advantage of those issues. And HealthNet just sent this group just sent this out, but they have accusations against folks that have been actually finding folks that have these problems, paying for their insurance coverage so they can then bill the insurance company at 10 times that amount they're paying on their monthly bill for their coverage. And so clearly some challenges and problems with that, and we're dealing with those folks, and we've created several ordinances in town that protect residents while not violating that group's civil rights. There's challenges where we can't treat if there's a group that has 6 or fewer in a house and right next to you in a residential neighborhood, we can't say, oh, we don't like you there and you can't be there. That would be violating their civil rights. It'd be like saying that we don't like bald guys and we can't have bald guys living there. You can't do that. You can't violate someone's civil rights, so we have to treat them appropriately. But we can deal with them if they're causing impacts in the community, and we aggressively deal with those issues and document those issues, and have created ordinances that further protect residents, require space between providers and different things. And so we're a leader in Orange County and dealing with that because we have one of the biggest challenges and issues, and we're finally achieving some successes and dealing with issues, and we're happy because residents that are out there dealing with bad providers are being impacted, and we're helping them have a higher quality of life.
What did your attorney say about this? Some good things that are coming out of the ordinance?
Absolutely. So we've adopted several ordinances both on single-family residential households and multifamily residential households, but we're being sued. So obviously there's a lot of money at stake, and they don't like being told you have to do certain things, you have to file paperwork with the city, you can't be next to each other. They want to have 3 or 4 or 5 homes on one block right next to each other so they can, operate with some synergy, and that changes the quality of a neighborhood. That changes the character of a neighborhood. Well, the purpose and their protection is based on the fact that they have the right to be integrated in a community so they could be like any other household. Well, then you can't have 4 of you together because that changes a neighborhood. And so we're holding them accountable in a variety of different ways, but we're being sued aggressively because of our efforts. And I'm proud of the council and I'm proud of the community for being willing to fight the good fight, because it's a little risk. That we could lose some lawsuits, but we're fighting the good fight because we're not being treated well, and we're doing the right things, and we're aggressively dealing with that. Okay. Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it. Just one more item, and I just want to say these are non-general fund money. So we have some T-shirts for you, but we're so they're in the back. Please feel free to have one. I think they're kind of cool. This is one look. talks about Costa Mesa and how unique and interesting we are. And here's a different look. It has the California logo, but if you know Costa Mesa, we're a little stubborn. We have a goat on it. We're Old Goat Hill, and so there's the California logo with our own little twist on it. The shirts are in the back. They're with tourism dollars, so our choice was to spend money on shirts and other things, or to buy some radio ads in Arizona encouraging people to come to Costa Mesa. So we're spending a little bit of money on these things for the residents to enjoy, and please, they're in the back if you'd like when you leave. And again, thank you for having me.